Hello, I'm Aparna Bamzai, University Assistant Director of the South Central Climate Science Center. In this video, I'll be discussing an important component of the international climate policy landscape, the environmental treaty known as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or the UNFCCC. In December 2015, the world was electrified as 196 nations gathered in Paris, France for the 21st yearly session of the Conference of Parties to the UNFCCC. The conference took place 2 weeks after a series of terrorist attacks hit the city center, and many representatives came to Paris with solidarity and resolve in their hearts. Speaking in his introductory remarks, President Obama stated that, "We salute the people of Paris for insisting that this crucial conference go on, an act of defiance that proves nothing will deter us from building the future we want for our children." Inspired, the conference representatives negotiated the Paris Agreement, a consensus document that aims to hold global warming to less than 2 degrees Celsius and encourages countries to pursue efforts to even further limit the rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, by reaching global peaking of greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible. But this landmark agreement wasn't reached overnight. The history of the UNFCCC goes back more than 25 years to 1990, when the Second World Climate Conference issued a call to the United Nations General Assembly for a global treaty on climate change. It took 15 months for an intergovernmental committee to conduct these negotiations, and the convention was opened for signature at the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. It took another 2 years to get the requisite 50 countries to ratify the treaty, so the annual Conference of Parties sessions didn't kick off until 1995 in Berlin, Germany. Much of the first few years of sessions were taken up with the logistics of setting up a framework for implementation. It wasn't until the third Conference of Parties in Kyoto, Japan, that a commitment was crafted to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. Representatives trying to implement the Kyoto Protocol struggled with the fact that defining what dangerous interference looks like involves value judgments that could vary widely across the globe. In addition, the agreement placed the obligation to reduce emissions on developed countries based on the fact that those countries had primarily contributed to the increased greenhouse gas concentrations. As a result, the Kyoto Protocol was slow to gain signatories, and it did not enter into force until 2005. In fact, the United States Congress rejected the agreement overwhelmingly, and the United States never even ratified the protocol. The UNFCCC grappled in subsequent Conference of Parties sessions to define national commitments and create a global framework for reducing emissions. It wasn't until the 2009 Copenhagen Accord in Denmark that a quantified reduction objective was agreed upon. Global warming should be limited to below 2 degrees Celsius. But even this accord was not formally adopted. Instead, the target was to be included in the negotiation of future agreements. In the years between Copenhagen and Paris, the UNFCCC Conference of Parties sessions began global initiatives such as the Green Climate Fund and the Program on Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation. The 2011 Conference of Parties session held in Durban, South Africa, identified the needs of developing countries and reiterated the importance of eradicating poverty and continuing to foster social and economic development. As you can see, international negotiations move slowly. Critics of the 2015 Paris Agreement have voiced frustration that the document lacks binding enforcement mechanisms such as fiscal penalties or taxes. However, representatives from the UNFCCC Conference of Parties have committed to continue to meet annually and evolve this environmental treaty into the future by establishing progressive national achievements that add up over time to a worldwide goal.